Alright, so today I'm back in my basement. I'm going to be doing the copper rough-in and setting the tub and things like that. I'm going to start by doing my stub out for my toilets, and I like to set my clamps before I do anything else. I just find it easier to do that and have it set and then do anything I can outside of the stud, like solder this first piece. I just find it easier to do stuff like that outside. I'm gonna drill all my holes for the cold line. I'm just gonna do one at a time. I find it easier to keep everything straight and know what I'm doing, so I'm just gonna do the cold first. I really like this Milwaukee cutter. It just saves a lot of work on your hands. You can do it with the normal twist cutters, but you know, when I have 50 cuts here and all, it all adds up, and at the end of the day, my hands are thanking me. So yeah, just gonna get this all set up and make sure it's cleaned and fluxed correctly. And yeah, over here I'm gonna do my stub out for my vanity right below this. And behind me there, my dad is working on the drain and vent, so he's getting that set up while I'm doing the copper. I'm going to do a couple blocks against the stud there. Anytime I can be off of a stud especially with fittings, soldering fittings right up against the stud is very difficult. It's just, you always burn, the stud or just something. I don't know. I just find it to be much more professional to, get off a stud in any case you can. So I'm going to do that again, making sure everything's fluxed and cleaned and straight. That's one thing, especially if your stub out isn't straight, your escutcheon one, in the back of the vanity when you're done is going to be weird, or so making sure that's straight and all that before you solder it and it's in its finished place is important. I used to really not like soldering because I used to have a couple, pinholes every once in a while, and I didn't really understand quite what I was doing. I had a decent idea, but I really, tried to understand what I'm doing here, and I don't know, been soldering for probably, 5 years, not constantly, but for the past 5 years, so I've definitely learned a few things and feel confident about it and actually really enjoy it now. But I'm gonna do the hotline here. So the vanity is a 36-inch vanity, and it has drawers on the right side. I usually like to go, cold on one side, hot on the other side of the drain. But this time with the drawers on the one side, I couldn't, it was too tight, so I had to go on the left side. I didn't want to be too far on the inside of the vanity, so I had to go up against the stud, which isn't ideal like I was talking about earlier, but that's what I had to do here, and it all worked out, and it looks good in the back of the vanity. It just isn't ideal to be up against the stud. I really like to set clamps where I have these, I call them tube talons, but I have one, both of them are opposing each other. So one is on the top of it, one is on the bottom. I found that to be very, I don't know, just like it really sets the piece of pipe. It just makes sure that it's not, going either up or down rather than having two on one side or only one clamp. I think it just really, locks it in place. So I'm in the furnace room here, and I just decided to go on the outside of the studs. With where I'm going up here, it is just a lot easier, and it's in the furnace room. I'm not super worried about it, so that's why I'm doing that here. I am in a kind of a tough spot up in the ceiling here with the main trunk line of the furnace and also the vent that my dad just put in, which is totally fine, but it just is a little bit tight up in here to make the final connection. But gonna just make sure I'm doing it safely and I'm not burning anything. But those are the tougher spots to solder in, aren't my favorite, but had to do it and got it done there. And I will be the first to admit my soldering joints aren't the cleanest. I will say I feel almost 100% confident in them. They just aren't. I'm not, super worried about it being really clean. I definitely want to be as professional as I can be, but at the end of the day, if it holds water, that's what I'm most worried about. So don't come at me too much about it, because that's, I'm doing the best I can with limited experience and just doing this basically for my things. So, but yeah, I think they all come out pretty good. Just making sure I clean the fittings, because if you leave flux, I find, my opinion is that it, will eventually corrode and, affect the joint if you don't clean the solder off, the extra solder, once you soldered But anyways, I'm gonna foam in the spots here where I drilled out for the copper. I just find it helps with just locking it in place, and there's no water hammering or anything like that. And I think just for insulation, even if it's a small amount, it's good. So that's what I'm gonna do here is just, yeah, foam around the spots where I drilled out. So now I'm going to work on the shower valve and get that set. I always pull the cartridge out. Want to make sure you don't lose the parts for it, but always pull the cartridge out before you flame this, because otherwise you'll most likely destroy the cartridge and basically need a new valve. But yeah, just going to do anything again I can on the ground before. So I'm going to do the drop L. I forget what it's called, but the shower head, I'm going to do that on the ground here first and get some things soldered on to the valve before I put it up. I like to just set a laser for this. It makes it a lot easier. Your measurements, I don't know, the laser has been the easiest for me. Your measurements could sometimes be off or whatever, so lining it up with a laser is nice and easy. But I'm on the back side here where there's going to be a closet where I'm going to fur down just a 2x width, so I'm going underneath the joist here. I don't particularly like drilling through joists. I know it's okay, but if I can not do that, I will, so I'm just going to fur down the ceiling a little bit. That's why I'm coming underneath the joist here. But yeah, I'm coming back and going to, you know, go all the way back to where my main line is that I'm going to tie into. So just getting up into the joist space, and I'm going to connect both of these. Alright, so now we're going to get on to setting the tub, and we're going to set it in some plaster Paris, and I think that's just the correct way. I'm not sure how else people set tubs, but that's how I've always done it. But just going to lay down a bed of yeah, mortar there, plaster Paris, and get that all set before we slide it in place and set it down in it. And then just make sure it's obviously level and all that, and then pre-drill into the studs through the flange, and then do some cabinet screws, some coated cabinet screws into yeah, the studs here. Or you could use, I guess, any kind of pan head would work, but yeah, gonna get that fully set and let it cure, and then the next day I'm going to yeah, do the inso here, just because we're gonna put up the surround and I need insulation behind it, or want insulation behind it. So I'm gonna inso here and get ready to, yeah, do the surround. So now we're ready for the surround, and we're going to be using some, it's by Loctite, it's Power Grab Tub Surround Adhesive, and it's pretty important, obviously, because there's not much other than the screws at the top, and then this here. So just making sure on every stud we're getting a good bead of this Power Grab Tub Surround Adhesive, and then going to make sure the plastic is peeled back on the sides and stuff to make sure it's not getting in, or trapped in there, I should say, and then pushing it up against the studs and going to make sure we're level and where we want to be, and then start pre-drilling and screwing it off. There's this gasket that's pretty important that goes on both sides, that you kind of butt the two pieces into and kind of squish it, not too much, but that you push into this gasket, and then it, you know, supposed to help the seal. So my dad is doing that here, and then we'll be ready to do the sides. So after making a couple cuts for the valve and the stub out, We're going to place this here, and same thing, just make sure it's where it needs to be, and then screw it off. So now we're going to put some pressure up against the tub here with just screwing a 2x to the studs here and then up against it using these extension pulls to just put some pressure up against it to make sure it's sitting in that adhesive properly. And we're going to put a 2x across the back and sides just to make sure that the pressure is even or a little more even. And yeah, just make sure that's where we want it to be and it stays there. And now the next day I'm going to come back and remove everything and make sure that nothing is moving or anything like that. And we'll call that one good. So the last thing I'm going to do is just make sure that there's nothing leaking, both with the drain underneath and with the tub itself, because I had some bad experience with that in the past. But anyways, that is all the water roughed in and there's no leaks, so we'll call that a day.